Watch this.
A new bill at the State House that would take away local government's ability to limit rental application fees and deposits has a lot of you talking, and it wasn't good. We heard you, so did the sponsor of the bill. That wasn't good either. So now we're hearing from him. Maybe he can explain it better. They got COVID a while ago, and it hasn't really gone away. Now they've contracted the latest variant of the virus. Long haulers tell us how Omicron has made their symptoms worse. For decades, some Idahoans have suffered from the effects of nuclear radiation testing, but they were left off the list of those who would be compensated for it. Could that change? You asked, we tracked down the answer. Affordable housing has been a hot topic in Boise, in Ada County, in the Treasure Valley, and in all of Idaho for a few years now. The problem? Well, not enough of it to go around. Not only the cost of the house or apartment, but a lot of times the cost to just get in one. Application fees and deposits. It's become such a problem. Back in 2019, the city of Boise passed an ordinance that put a cap on application fees at $30. It's a welcomed relief for those looking for a place to live, for sure. Well, there's a bill in the State House right now that would undo that. And we've heard from a lot of you this week, very much against it. But what's the reasoning behind it? We asked that question and others of the bill's sponsor, Representative Joe Palmer. Here's Joe Paris.
House Bill 442 has created a lot of conversation this week at the Capitol and online. There is a lot of questions, so let's get into it. For starters, bill sponsor Representative Joe Palmer explains what the bill does.
All the bill basically does is goes along with, I believe, what was the bill's original intent, is to keep government out of the business of renting properties.
Representative Palmer highlights that under current Idaho law, the government cannot regulate rent prices. The proposed bill would simply add to that, preventing the government from regulating fees or deposits for residential rental properties.
Government cannot step in and tell you what to rent your property for, but they can adjust any fees or deposits. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think business needs to make those decisions for themselves.
It's also about consistency across Idaho, Palmer says.
Currently, we have certain cities that are doing certain things, different prices. And, really, if a city is charging a fee, they really should be just charging a fee of what it costs them to do the fee. They shouldn't be making money off any fees. And so they're doing all kinds of licensing and that kind of thing. This is, how do you regulate the different types of things that they're doing? And this is one thing that I just don't think that they should be involved with regulating.
Critics of the bill say it puts renters in a tough spot, especially low-income renters. In Boise, for example, there's a rule that rental applications must be capped at $30. This legislation would remove that cap and any cap like it. Palmer says he understands that point, but that recent growth has made this a supply and demand issue, not a rental fees issue.
The supply and demand it's the problem. We have the demand right now. We just can't build them fast enough. People are building apartments as fast as they can. And as they come here, as long as regulations are few and far between, they're going to continue to grow and build whatever product people are going to buy, whether it be an apartment for rent or anything.
I asked Representative Palmer about concerns that his bill could promote price gouging or unfair renting practices. Palmer says there will always be bad actors out there. We know that, and they need to be addressed, but outside of this legislation. He adds that he's open to taking on price gouging.
If a bill is brought to me that helps to protect people, that is not regulatory on somebody, absolutely, I would be happy to look at that. As far as price gouging, you are going to have bad players that do certain things.
Palmer says he has heard criticism on the bill, but says he's also had support from constituents who say rental caps make running their rentals difficult in terms of keeping up with costs.
A constituent of mine called me up and was very happy that I was running this bill and said, I have 4 rentals inside Boise. I paid $90 a piece for every one of them for the background checks.
Palmer says to him this is about keeping government out of business. He says alongside the topic, he knows Idaho needs to keep up with growth by creating more housing and staying attractive to newcomers.
It's just that easy. Anytime you see more regulation, businesses go away from it because it costs them more to make their profits.
All right, Joe, we know price gouging is a hard thing to prove, but that's something you could deal with on a different topic or different day. But this bill, similar bill, was brought forth last legislative session, derailed because the person that brought it forward had some connection to rental property, therefore had a vested interest in it. What are the chances that's happening now?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of questions on social media that we've got. People saying, well, does Representative Palmer, does he have residential rentals that he's trying to, get in for himself? And I asked Representative Palmer, and he told me he does not own or operate any residential properties that would be rented out for tenants or anything like that. He tells me that as a businessman, he and his family, they have some commercial properties. But he was very clear to me, Brian, when I asked him this. He said, this isn't about supporting himself. This isn't about a business that he's really involved in. He tells me that to him, this is about keeping government out of business. And he also says it's about cleaning up the Idaho law that says the government cannot be involved in talking about rental prices. He believes it should extend to fees as well.
Okay, so basically he's just calling it a clerical bill, as you said, right?
Yeah, he really says he's cleaning up the language here of the Idaho bill, and he really believes that the intent, when it was drafted originally, was to keep the government out of renting. He thinks that this was an oversight. He says he simply wants to fix the language in that. He says to him, this isn't about anything other than that.
All right, thank you very much, Joe.
Well, I want to tell you, I'm standing up against this bill today because I want tax cuts. Because I want tax cuts. It bears repeating, I am standing against this bill because I want tax cuts. I just want tax cuts that will actually help people and help the people that need it, help working families, tax cuts that correlate to what the people of Idaho actually want.
Safe to say a vast majority of Idahoans want some of their money back. This past year, we've been giving it to the government through sales tax, income taxes, corporate taxes, kind of like Rip Taylor confetti. 2021's fiscal year, which ended in June, Idaho received a record $5 billion in such revenue, helping push our state budget surplus to its highest ever, $1.9 billion. So here we are, a little more than a week into the 2022 legislative session, a time when most bills are still in committee, getting worked out. The House has passed the largest tax relief bill in Idaho history, $600 million. This one would top the one passed into law last session, and that's a big deal. But it's the timing of this bill that had some members questioning the chamber's priorities.
There are so many pressing needs in the state of Idaho right now, arising from underinvestment over the course of a decade or more. As we all know, we're the lowest education funding per pupil in America. We're hemorrhaging teachers who are grossly underpaid as compared to other states and other professions. We have a child care crisis that's leading to a workforce crisis. If businesses are leaving the state, it's not because of our income tax rate or our corporate tax rate. It's because they can't find child care for their workers, and they can't find an educated workforce, and they can't find housing for their workforce.
Representative Rubel went on to list other things that should be taken care of first, like Idaho is one of only 4 states without early childhood education, a foster care system on the brink of collapse, she said, and more than 1,500 bridges in need of repair across the state. Well, even some of the Republicans in the House, like Representative Tammy Nichols, said they've been hearing more about property tax relief and eliminating the sales tax from constituents, rather than that minimum $75 rebate from the state. But after all, giving money back is giving money back. And Representative Mike Moyle, one of the sponsors of the bill, he wrapped up the debate like this.
Last year, we passed an income tax cut bill, which was the biggest tax relief bill in Idaho history. Guess what happened when we came back here in January? We had the biggest flipping surplus we've ever had. Why? Because you gave the money back to the people. And what did they do? They spend it. And when they spend it, people got jobs, and the economy rolled, and it turned around and it rolled, and it came back to us. And we're able to now do it again. And hopefully with this even larger relief bill, tax relief bill, we will come back to even larger surpluses next year, and we can do it again.
The bill passed the House, by the way, 57-13, almost right along party lines. Representative Fred Wood, the only Republican to vote against it, saying that $1.9 billion, merely a forecasted surplus, and he would rather wait until that money actually actualizes. Representative Moyle pointed out after this $600 million tax relief bill, there's still a lot of surplus left to take care of a lot of other things, like $1.3 billion. And it's only January 20th. There's still time to take another look at property tax relief and getting rid of the sales tax on groceries. Could those two things still get done? Well, not according to 2 other members of the chamber. A vote for this bill today, they said, is a vote against elimination for all practical purposes of the grocery tax.
It's been said that we can have this bill and do the other things we want to do. We can still repeal the sales tax on groceries. We can still reduce property taxes. I will eat my hat if we pass this bill and repeal the sales tax on groceries. I've seen the math. Like, it's not happening. So let's be real clear and honest about that.
The good lady to my left will eat her hat. I will eat a shoe. I will lay down a bet. If anybody wants, I'm a betting woman. If anybody wants to bet that there is any possibility of passing the elimination of the grocery tax once this goes through, happily take you up on that. Maybe the tooth fairy will get rid of the grocery tax after this passes. Your odds are better.
Well, that would be a lot of teeth we'd have to lose to get the tooth fairy involved. I asked Representative Rubel, or maybe we can call her now Riverboat Rubel after this, if she had any takers on her bet that they wouldn't pass a grocery tax bill in the House. She said, not yet. I think they all know I'm right. So here's your chance, Idaho legislators, an incentive, if you will. A hat and a shoe could be consumed at the Capitol if you can finally eliminate the 6% sales tax on groceries. All right, heading over to Washington, D.C. Normally, we like to save our viewer questions for Fridays, but we got one yesterday morning that we would like to fit into today's show. Lee Bradley in Nampa texted us to ask this question: what is the latest on the downwinder program? When will it be voted on, and who will qualify for the funds, and how do they apply for those funds? That's quite a few questions. All right, let's start with this. What is a downwinder? If you're new to Idaho, or maybe to the West, the term may be unfamiliar, but you're going to likely hear more of it coming from D.C. soon. We're going to explain that in a minute. But downwinders, people who lived in parts of Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Montana, New Mexico, and Colorado during the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That was the time the federal government was conducting hundreds of atmospheric nuclear blasts in Nevada and across the New Mexico deserts. And for decades, many have said the radiation from those blasts just kind of spread out, got caught up in the jet stream, spread out across the West, and people all across the western states eventually got cancer. Idaho Senator Mike Crapo, a big proponent of downwinder legislation, says Idaho's fallout stems mostly from one blast on June 5th, 1952. He says it greatly impacted the counties of Custer, Gem, Blaine, and Lemhi, which he says saw some of the highest exposure in the nation. According to a 1997 National Cancer Institute study, Gem County actually received the third highest amount of radiation fallout in the country. So for the past 25 years, members of Congress, including Senator Crapo, for the last 10 years, well, they've been working to get new legislation passed to help those people affected by those blasts, known as downwinders. Senator Crapo says there's currently legislation in place called the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. It was designed to compensate victims of the airborne radiation from those weapons testings. Right now, though, it only includes those who live in parts of Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. And that legislation will expire in July unless Congress can extend it. Part of Senator Crapo's legislation would make sure other states like Idaho, Colorado, Montana, and New Mexico would be included in that compensation. And they almost passed it back in December.
We actually had this extension agreed to as an amendment to our National Defense Authorization Act last December, and it was agreed and ready to move forward. But then the entire tranche of amendments that had been agreed to that bill got dropped out in a procedural battle that forced all of those amendments to be pulled back for reasons unrelated to the amendments themselves. And so although that particular opportunity fell by the wayside as a result of other party politics, we know that we have bipartisan agreement in both the Senate and the House. And I expect that we have a good chance to be able to get that extension put in some of the legislation that moves between now and July.
That is barring another tranche of amendments, I guess. So let's get back to Lee's question. We don't know when it will be voted on, but the hope is, like Senator Crapo said, before July, before the current legislation runs out. We do know this legislation includes increasing the compensation from $50,000 to $150,000 to those affected. For some, the coronavirus has lasted longer than the time it takes to quarantine. It's brought on lingering symptoms that many just can't seem to shake. Long haulers explain why Omicron has made it worse. Sure, the roads may be a mess right now, but it's almost the end of the work week, and there's still time to send us your text messages. See, glass half full. Send us your story ideas or your comments about today's stories. The number is on your screen, 208-321-5614. Don't forget to include your name and the hashtag #the208. We're going to try to share yours at the end of the show. If we don't, well, there's always tomorrow. Again, glass half full. Another record day in Idaho yesterday. More than 4,500 new COVID cases reported, which smashes the old record set earlier this week of 3,800. And with the state's COVID testing backlog of more than 31,000 cases, it's likely going to be a long road. Those who know about long roads, COVID long haulers, they're still dealing with lingering symptoms from previous variants. And now their road to recovery could be even longer because of the Omicron variant. Katya Stepovic spoke with two women, both of whom consider themselves long haulers, about how their symptoms or how they have handled an Omicron infection and what most concerns them about having another layer.
I feel like a lot of people, they say, oh, my case was mild.
When it comes to Omicron, that seems to be the common theme for people. Milder symptoms for those who are fully vaccinated. But for long haulers, the fear of getting infected with COVID again, even if it is Omicron, is worrisome.
Are these symptoms ever going to go away? Are we ever going to get our life back? Our old life back, where not have to worry about catching something and the symptoms coming back or being worse.
That's the concern that creeps into Sharon's mind, who still suffers from fatigue and a cough over a year after getting infected with COVID.
If it was going to make it better, then I'd be going, okay, bring it on,
But according to Amber O'Toole, who's been a long hauler since March of 2020, getting infected by COVID, and she thinks it was Omicron weeks ago, made her lingering symptoms worse.
This made it so I'm sleeping a lot more. I'm in more pain. My headaches are more severe than what they were.
O'Toole says before getting COVID, she was perfectly healthy. Since then, she's dealt with over 60 different symptoms she says are lingering effects of
kind of
COVID.
Struggling it mainly in my hands.
I look like I had Parkinson's for 3 months. That's actually why I stopped working, because I had such severe hand tremors, but it also worked into my neck as well. I actually have had a headache since September of 2020. There's some days where it's a lot more extreme, where it's full-on migraine with light sensitivity, sound sensitivity.
Right when many of her symptoms were starting to get better, after what she says was Omicron came and went, it left her with a worse fatigue and more severe headaches and weakness.
I actually feel like it was a little bit of a step back.
She says right after getting infected with COVID the first time, her symptoms didn't get worse until about 6 months after. While she remains optimistic, the result of being infected with COVID twice as a long hauler still remains unknown.
You don't know how it's going to affect you months from now either. COVID is kind of a little bit of a genius that it can slowly interrupt your life.
It's not just getting a mild case of Omicron. It could be something worse that you don't realize this could happen.
As Sharon tells us, she has yet to get COVID during her long-haul journey. Her symptoms have gotten slightly better over time, but she fears that she could see a setback if she were to get infected by Omicron. right, so no snow on that 7-day forecast, but boy, it hit us hard and fast here in the valley just a bit ago, didn't it? Well, since it stopped, not before dropping 2 inches of snow here at the studio, as you heard Rick talk about earlier in the day. But we decided we wanted to see how it measured up. So we put out a can of beer out on our patio, a 208 can, of course. I mean, because of course. And you can see we started a little bit late, but you could see how it quickly piled up in that short amount of time, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So that's how it works. But we did get out there enough to see how deep the snow was. And again, about 2 inches, kind of put the snow there around the beer can, and that's how we do. We want to see, though, how you're measuring your snow out there, if you did before it all melted off, just to see how quickly it would pile up in your backyard, your front yard, whatever. Make sure you tag us on social media using the hashtag #the208. But as you're heading out, we just have to warn you, because we have to, just be careful out there. All right, a lot of comments sent in today about the tax bill working its way through the State House, plus the rental fee and application rental fee and deposits bill also working its way through the State House. How do they justify not repealing the grocery tax when that affects all of us? Makes the most sense, says Patty in Boise. Representative Rubel, what she said, listen up, GOP, keep my $75, invest in our teachers, our kids, our state parks, all the things the Republicans never fund, all the things we have to pass, special levies to fund. The party of less government, what a joke, she says. This one, I think the Tooth Fairy might even start charging taxes. Ooh, tough house to live in there with Ashley. Taxes on the Tooth Fairy? Eek. If the person who has 4 rentals in Boise is going to go broke spending $90 on background checks, how can they manage 4 rentals? Rental fees are a tax write-off, he says. I'm not a tax attorney, so I don't know, or a CPA. And it's a fleecing of renters. That is according to Larry. This one, Representative Palmer needs to understand that right now in Idaho, if Idahoans can't afford a $500,000 mortgage, what makes him think we can afford a $90 application fee? Lots to go along with that as well. Regulation is what keeps people and businesses honest. In the case of rent, property owners and landlords will always set rent as high as the wealthy incoming population will pay, says Brett. A lot of you have some hard feelings on that as well, going back and forth. I don't know how it will get settled. We'll see how it plays out in the State House if it even gets passed. Hey, Brian, my dad and I watch your show when he gets home from work. He doesn't really like you. Okay, but I think you're cool. Thanks. Wonder why he still watches your show, though. Must secretly like you. We'll take the haters too, Colby. Thanks for letting us know. Say hi to your dad. We'll see you tomorrow.